Do you realize that right now, India is devouring the world's silver? Unbelievable statistics coming out of India regarding their consumption and importation of silver. We're going to talk all about it in this video, and we need to talk about some good news. It has been brutal to be invested in the silver space over the last 6 months, over the last year. I want to lay on the floor and scream and cry. Sentiment is down, but we've got some good news in India. We're going to make up a new word, friendia. But also at the end of the video, I want to put out a word of caution, a direct message to our new friendias and Indias, and they better listen. Let's get started right now. We've got a ton to cover regarding this fascinating India situation, including toward the end of the video where we're going to talk about new information from the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association. They had some things to say about India that were just shocking. But first, we know India, they love precious metals. They love gold, and now they love silver. They are set to import almost 10,000 metric tons of silver this year. That is almost 40%, or maybe even more than 40% of the total mine output of silver for the world for the year. That means, let's put this into perspective. Think about this. That means that for every 10 ounces of silver that come out of the ground this year, every 10 ounces, 4 of those ounces are being shipped directly to India. And can you see that this is creating huge demand for silver throughout the world? It's not a stretch for us then to see also it is totally disrupting precious metal supply chains. All this metal is moving to the east, moving to India. And on top of that, specific to silver, we've got huge demand from industry, right? For solar panels, for electronics, for everything else. And what's the end result of all of this? A crashing silver price, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, doesn't make sense to you that the price of silver is down on the spot level at the LBMA, at the COMEX? But when we go to a coin shop to try to buy a few measly ounces, we're being charged premiums like we've never seen before. I don't know, guys. It sure seems a little funky to me. I don't know your thoughts on the subject, but I think the real price of silver is much, much higher than what we're seeing on the spot markets right now. And are you wondering if these Indian numbers are really that astounding? Like, what did they import last year and the year before? Well, we know that this year they're on track to import 10,000 metric tons of silver. We also know that in 2021 and 2020, in each of those years, they imported only roughly 2,500 metric tons of silver. So that means this year's 10,000 metric ton import would be more than twice of the previous 2 years combined. And what do you think would happen if the demand continues to grow in India? Think about this. Do you know how many people live in India? 1.4 billion people. They have 4 times or more than 4 times the number of people that we have here in the United States of America. Now, they don't have their own Jerome Powell in a Federal Reserve like we do, but they do have 1.4 billion people with an increasing appetite for silver. Now, you might be asking yourself, should I trust a guy in St. Louis sitting in his basement talking about this? Of course not. So next, we're going to talk about the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association, those fine, esteemed friends of ours in the United Kingdom. We're going to talk about what they had to say about the situation in India. But first, I wanted to thank you for joining me here in Ron's Basement. If you are still with me, you very well may be a basement dweller, somebody who likes to sit in their basement and dwell on things, dive a little deeper. If you enjoy my content, you can subscribe right here. But more importantly, turn on the little ding-a-ling bell. That way you'll get notified every time I put out a breaking broadcast from the basement. Most important, please leave a comment in the comment section below. You don't even have to be nice, okay? But we want to learn from you. We want to learn about you. It's very important that we all share with each other because we're doing this from all over the world. Now let's get back to the video. The London Bullion Market Association just had a big conference and we did not get invited. Well, boo-hoo. I think we'll survive. But I want to tell you a couple things that were mentioned at this conference that are fascinating about the metals in general and silver specifically. Now, pardon me while I look down to read because my memory stinks. We're all getting older, you know. But Mark Woolley, he's a senior vice president at Brink's Global Services. I wonder how much of a raise he got when he went from vice president to senior vice president. Probably nothing. They probably let him pick out a gift out of some catalog, a new umbrella or whatever. But hey, at least his wife got to brag about him to the relatives and the friends at the country club. Nonetheless, Mr. Woolley noted that there are massive amounts of metal, gold and silver, moving from the west to the east. They are gobbling it up. There was a panel that I presume he was on, Mr. Woolley, and this is what they said. They're seeing particularly an insatiable appetite, record appetite for silver from India. Mr. Woolley went on to say this, quote, "The flows from the U.S. have been unprecedented." He said, quote, "The majority of that metal is heading east." But what do the Indians have to say about all this silver being imported? It gets very interesting when we listen to Sunil Kashyap. He's the director at FinMet PTE Ltd. And he said that India's silver imports are expected to hit a record high of 10,000 tons. We know that already, Sunil. We already covered that. Double the average annual imports seen in the last few years. Mr. Kashyap said that a good crop season is providing farmers with extra income, which they are using to buy silver as a store of value. Now, I've always said Indian people are very, very smart. They're very friendly, but they're also very, very smart. He added, Mr. Kashyap, that is, that silver demand is so strong in India that retailers are having the precious metal shipped by aeroplane. They're actually flying airplanes to India filled with silver, hopefully not too much silver, because from what I understand, silver's very dense. Silver's very heavy. I heard somebody say, like, if you fill a shoebox with silver, that you can't hardly lift it. Let's wrap up with a few final things that Mr. Kashyap had to say. By the way, I love that name, Kashyap. It's easy to say. I have a hard time saying a lot of Indian names, which is my problem. I don't know if you have that problem as well. Nonetheless, Kashyap noted that solid silver demand in India has pushed premiums up 25 cents compared to London market prices. Historically, the premium in India is around 5 cents. Now, I'm going to quote him here. Mr. Kashyap said, the premium is 5 times compared to a normal market, and people are still paying it. So that kind of flows we are seeing, he said, we don't see any signs of this demand abating. We don't see any signs of this demand abating. The future demand picture in India continues to look strong. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. But first, sorry I had to save this to the very end. Let's put on our green visors and be accountants and calculate how we got to this 4 in every 10 silver ounces being mined right now going to India. They are importing 10,000 metric tons this year. That comes to 350 million ounces, actually a little higher. Total mine output for this year is estimated to be around 850 million ounces. If you divide 350, what India will be importing, buy 850, you get more than 40%. So indeed, every 10 ounces of silver coming out of the ground this year, 4 of them will be on maybe an aeroplane, sounds like, heading to India. And finally, that word of caution. If you are one of these farmers in India buying all this silver right now, please do your best to hold on to it. I understand. The farmers in India work super, super hard. They work on very tight budgets. You may need to cash some out in the future, but please do your best to be a strong holder of the metals, because potentially all this silver being acquired by our good friends in India, have you considered that at some point they might be selling that back, and that could put downward pressure on the price of silver? And we know, right, there's been plenty of downward pressure on silver, but nonetheless, we love our friends in India. They're smart. They're buying silver. They know what we know. Silver is an excellent store of value, and the future looks bright and shiny for the metal. Thank you for joining me in Ron's Basement. I appreciate you being here. You know you're always welcome to come back. Until next time, you be well.